So what is going on, guys? My name is Lethal and welcome back to another Lethal's Take episode. Now I want to start off this episode by saying sorry if the gameplay you are watching is kind of a bit frame ratey. I'm using a different program purely because the program that I usually been or have been using for some reason today hasn't just been working on my computer, so I'm gonna get it fixed by the time we do start or have the next sort of gameplay episode video coming out, which will be Friday with the strat series. So I'll get it fixed by then. However, for today's episode, we are going to be doing or covering what we kind of learned from ESL One New York. Um, or ESL New York, however you want to phrase it. It happened this past weekend, and some of these ones are gonna kind of be a bit ironic considering, or I guess ironic's the right word, considering what's happened this past couple of days with DreamHack Malmo, which we will be covering next week on a Lethal Takes episode where we will discuss all the things we learned. It'll be probably a bit longer than this one purely because ESL One or New York didn't have much competition. I guess I think there's only 8 teams altogether, whereas DreamHack has I think got 16. So I got 4 points that I've got written down. So without further ado, let's just cover these. Starting with number one. We learned that EG are an extremely decent team, and have the potential to be world class. Now, it's pretty ironic. Spoiler alert for next week, which I will say now. EG just crashed out at DreamHack Malmo without winning a game. They lost to Mousesports in 2-0, and they lost to Greyhounds yesterday. Which obviously is going to shock a lot of people considering of what they did in New York um, by beating Astralis in a best of 5 series, which is very rare that wasn't something that tended to happen, but they managed to pull it off, which all showed us that on their day they are some of the best players in the world and can be one of the best teams in the world. I do think this DreamHack, them crashing out DreamHack, is partly due to probably travel. I know it's not much of an excuse nowadays, but they flew from New York to Malmo. So if you don't know, New York obviously being on the east coast of America all the way to Malmo in Sweden. I think it's Malmo, but somewhere in Sweden. It is that's a long flight. I'm in the UK, and the flight from to America is 7 hours, and the flight to Sweden I think is 2 or 3. So you're talking about a 10-hour travel day, and then they got to play the next day afterwards. So jet lag and everything. That is obviously going to be extremely tough on them and or them as people, and that might contribute to the reason that they did crash out. However, credit where credit's due, Mousesports beat them, so did Greyhound, and they still have to get 16 rounds, so they did beat them fair and square. But one tournament bad, we did learn, or one tournament out, we did learn that EG can be an extremely good team, and hopefully they can pick back up their form and where they left off from New York in future events. Next thing I want to cover is Team Liquid. Team Liquid's sort of downfall, that we're starting to see this regression, which not many people expected. It started at the major and it continued in New York where they crashed out to yet again Astralis. They might probably make it further if they stop running to Astralis. However, they did lose to Astralis 2-1. They lost an overpass game 3, which obviously is not as shocking because Astralis have really picked up form, which I'll be covering at a later point. However, we didn't expect Liquid to drop off this much. We didn't expect Liquid to have to be fighting for their tournament lives in New York, where they which they had to, as well as them just crashing out to Astralis. Yes, it was a competitive game. Yes, they did bridge when they got beaten in the major. It was 2-0. Now it was 2-1. So we're hoping to see if Liquid can bounce back on Malmo. Currently, they did and they didn't. They lost their first game to Optic in a pretty convincing fashion. However, they went on today to beat North. They beat North 2-1 and ended up going through, which is obviously good to see. So Liquid's downfall is continuing. However, it could be brought back up. As far as my opinion, I don't think they're number one team in the world anymore. I think Astralis have kind of reclaimed that after the major, as well as New York outplacing them. Next, we are going to be covering point number 3, which is ENCE. ENCE's recent change to bring Sunny in instead of Alexi B, and so far it has not worked out for him. To me, it was always a really, really weird move, taking out Alexi B and putting in Sunny. I get your whole firepower argument, which I do understand. However, that team, a bit like the FaZe team, hasn't got a pure set IGL, which I think does hinder a lot of teams, especially in my opinion will hinder that FaZe team, the new FaZe team, which I'll probably discuss in some sort of episode in the future. And without that leadership and without someone that's been a dedicated IGL, I don't think ENCE will become world beaters. They'll be decent, don't get me wrong, they'll probably be a top 6 top 6, top 18. However, I don't think they're going to get to the point where they were in the majors and go into major finals without having that in-game leadership of someone that has done it before. Also, I think it might hinder Ali's performance going forward. Yes, he's played all right up till now. However, once you start getting deeper into the playbook and you have to start worrying about more things, I think over time this IGL thing will not help him and it will get progressively worse. But my third and final point is Astralis are back. They managed to get to the final. However, they did lose 3-1 as I mentioned earlier. But it's nice to see them playing well, and that's another thing we learned is that they are back, but the competition is very stiff. And we're hoping to see if they can do some great work at Malmo. They're up to the Group A final. They play Vitality tomorrow, which should be a great game. But this has been the League for Those Takes episode, guys. Hope you have enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Twitter when the very latest when these videos come out. Without further ado, have a great day.